yes, business, just to feed off what Kubi said, business impact analysis. It is basically, from what you said, you have you have that requisite experience. It is your risk analysis, basically identifying, projecting what possible losses and the actual impacts to business and shareholders. But this is this is what that's on an enterprise level. Now, what would we have said to that bulk of the economy, the SMEs, the bread baker, the small IT consultants, the logistics and delivery? My own question I'd rather ask would be, what can suffice as a business impact assessment or a business continuity plan for them? While major consultants such as one of the big four or even any consulting advisory organization put together almanacs this thick, covering all aspects of the business, probably in some extent pay millions of naira for that exercise. How do we bring this home to that organization that is probably worth, the entire worth of the organization is probably worth that business continuity plan that an enterprise organization would subscribe to? A single page, so you have a company with a CEO or an MD, operating person, manager, and driver, and all that. And then just in the business of, say, maybe, they get calls of what you call it from Instagram, and they do pickups and deliveries on behalf of customers. What would be their own business continuity plan? So that was my own question to you, just to film off what you had said earlier on. Yeah.
Michael, I absolutely agree with you. And you're correct in terms of big companies having big almanacs. But then the flip side of that is probably an advantage in flexibility. We've always heard that small companies are able to adapt easier. And the smaller you are, the easier you probably adapt. Now, adapt is in terms of, will you be able to continue? I know for a fact that some smaller companies, let's say a furniture maker, you have a workshop and then you have a showroom. You are probably not going to be able to continue in business until the lockdown is lifted, to the extent it's lifted now. Let's use Nigeria, let's use Lagos. So for now, you may still be having some challenges in terms of getting your staff to work and in terms of continuing. Therefore, you also need a continuity plan. It would be simpler than what, let's say, an MTN would need. MTN is completely different models all over the country. In fact, it's one of the essential services that we even needed during the total lockdown. So what you would be having as a smaller business would be much simpler. You would not have such a complicated big almanac as you described, but you would still need to have something. My question, and one of the first things I had said is, when there's smooth sailing, everybody tends to relax. So, and I know for a fact that even in the bigger companies, those fat almanacs were, I used metaphorically, getting dusty. But in actual fact, did anybody read them? Did anybody know them? I know that some agile companies immediately, just before the case numbers started to rise in Nigeria, they had tapped their risk management and said, hey, wake up. Where are those documents you prepared? Because they could see it coming. We had the first cases. I think the notification from China came in January of 2020. Nigeria got its first case in February, the Italian. So we had 1 month notice, and then we had 2 months during which we could see that, look, more people are going to come back from the UK, we're going to have a problem, and the US, we're going to have a problem here. So during that period, I know larger companies, started to refer to their records and decide what they needed to do. For smaller companies, some of them didn't have anything at all. So this is a lesson. You tend to find out that the memories of this pandemic, the human memory, the shock and the need, the awareness for risk management will probably last another 10 years. So for the next 10 years, you'll find out that even smaller companies have realized that, look, I need to have some kind of documentation in place. I need to have a disaster recovery plan. This will probably, now to the next 2 to 3 years, will probably be a gold mine for companies that provide those kind of services. My recommendation to a small company would be 2 things. Either you outsource and let consultants write something simple for you. That's probably the fastest, cheapest way to do it. You don't need to go and hire. I mean, I don't think a furniture maker with a fancy showroom is going to hire a risk manager on a full-time basis to be doing a monthly assessment. So your best bet would be to outsource it. Let a large company, pay them a fee, they'll do something simple for you, which you can adjust. The second thing is, a lot of this is common sense. Yes, you do need some tools. You might need some graphing tools and some forecasting tools to do a sophisticated plan. But at a simple level, at least use common sense to know that, all right, are there some things I can do? And let me give you a very simple example, which is in the public space. Funke Akindele is a very popular actress and many other things. And when she got into trouble for having a party, one of the things she said was that some of her people were on site with her. So those kind of simple things that, all right, we're going to continue filming, therefore you live in my house, we're in what is called a protective bubble. We stay in this bubble together, we can do continuity. It's very simple, it's common sense. I'm not sure she had anything written down, but it's one of the things she did to continue business. And you don't need an almanac listing to be able to take such initiatives.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And
thank you.
I won't just mention any names, but we had like, so for instance, you have 5 businesses who are now called essential services, but unfortunately their levels of readiness were not at par. And you have some, at least for the food vendors, we had some they were essential services, and they had every right to open up to carry on with their operations, but they were completely grounded. Whereas you had some who said, look, we have multiple locations and it'll be a challenge for our staff to get there. And they provided buses for pickups and for staff pickups and drop-offs at each of these locations to ensure that these guys keep doing what they're doing. So while some were caught with their pants down, some were just simply ready to respond.